All women are different, but they are all women. This video is androcentric from a men's point of view and is presented as opinion, commentary, and debate. Expressing opinions is not violence. These are ideas to challenge, question, and argue in public, because classical liberalism relies on the First Amendment for its dialectic. If you are a feminist, then consider this. If patriarchy truly existed as claimed, feminism could not. And if all men are trash and women are equal to men, then what are we to conclude? Women will die for their children. Men will die for their wives and children. And God chose to die for all mankind. Authority rolls up with responsibility. If this framing of facts offends you, click off to a cute cat video. Proceeding further will expose you to gamma bias and criticism directed at ideas, claims, institutions, not at any individual's virtue or dignity. Our method follows the 7 liberal arts, the trivium, grammar, logic, rhetoric, and the quadrivium, arithmetic, geometry, music, and astronomy. And the transcendentals, the good, true, and beautiful. If this framework is not for you, feel free to exit now. It's no disgrace. Women are wonderful. God bless America. Men are great. Feminismus delendus est. Redpill Mastery, a guide to dark age innovations, written by Conrad Riker. Available now. Links in description. Masculine survival skills. A cold shower for comfortable lies. I read the manifesto so you don't have to swallow its poison raw. Let us perform the first diagnostic act any sane physician performs upon encountering a patient who claims to be a god. Check the definitions. Sovereignty arrives from Old French sovereign, supreme ruler, self-governing, answerable to none above. Now observe what the manifesto's goddess actually requires. His credit card, his emotional stability, his labor, his silence, his submission, his death. A sovereign who depends on tribute is not a sovereign. She is a parasite who has mistaken her host's generosity for her own divinity. The title extractive sovereignty is the first contradiction, and it is the shape of every contradiction that follows, hundreds of them, stacked like skulls in a chapel built to worship the self. Consider the manifesto's central analogy. Men are power banks with anxiety. A power bank is a tool. A man is a person. The classical tradition from Athens through Rome through Jerusalem holds that every rational being is an end in himself, never merely a means. You cannot criticize objectification while practicing it and remain within the territory of reason. You can only howl from the wasteland of projection. If a man published a manifesto calling women ATMs with feelings or incubators with opinions, every gender studies department in the Western world would correctly identify it as hatred. The manifesto does the same thing with the pronoun swapped, adds a Wiccan benediction, and expects applause. I will not applaud, I will dissect. Here is the self-refutation compressed into a single syllogism. Premise 1, a sovereign being is self-governing and self-sustaining. Premise 2, the manifesto's goddess requires male resources to survive. Conclusion, the manifesto's goddess is not sovereign. She is dependent. The manifesto refutes its own title in section 1, then spends 5 more sections refuting itself in increasingly elaborate costume jewelry. It declares chaos is power, but entropy is the dissipation of usable energy, not its concentration. It announces feelings are facts, but if truth is merely power, then the claim truth is power is not true either, just a power grab eating its own tail. Every epistemological claim in the document commits suicide the moment you apply it to itself. This is not philosophy, this is a drinking game played with hemlock. Now consider what the manifesto casually dismisses as background noise. Approximately 130 men kill themselves every single day in the United States. Men account for 92% of workplace fatalities, 5,000 bodies a year in construction, logging, mining, roofing. So the lights stay on and the food arrives, and the manifesto's author can type her tribute demands from a climate-controlled office funded by male net taxpayers. The manifesto's response to this carnage, they fail to be useful enough to be kept. Apply the sex swap test. Imagine a man writing that female suffering is statistical, that female vulnerability proves inadequacy. that female pain deserves no empathy because it confirms her purpose as a reproductive vessel. You cannot imagine it published. You can barely imagine it whispered. Gamma bias makes the manifesto's monstrosity invisible to the very institutions that should be howling in protest. I intend to dismantle this document word by word, fallacy by fallacy, pretending the authors meant it seriously because the institutions that trained them certainly do. I will trace the etymologies they corrupted. Theft renamed sacred economy, projection renamed spiritual warfare, sociopathy renamed sovereignty. I will show that their program, scaled to civilization, produces exactly what we see around us. Collapsing fertility, epidemic loneliness, boys drugged into compliance in schools designed for their failure, and a demographic winter so severe that South Korea's birth rate has plummeted to 0.72, a number that means civilizational extinction within a handful of generations. The manifesto does not describe liberation. It describes a suicide note written in lipstick on the mirror of an empty apartment paid for by no one. I intend to hand you the tools to stop reading suicide notes as scripture and to start rebuilding the house they burned while calling it renovation.
Bunkum article by a feminist, PhD. Extractive sovereignty, the sacred economy of his ruin. A manifesto for the unrepentant woman. Let us begin with a heresy, my darlings, a dark and beautiful heresy that the coven has long guarded behind closed rituals and tenured whispers. You are not broken. You were never broken. That chaos you feel surging through your veins like liquid moonlight. That hysteria that makes you text him 47 times at 3 a.m., then block him for responding too quickly. That bottomless hunger no amount of shopping or validation can fill. That is not pathology, that is power. The patriarchy named it illness because it feared the diagnosis. You are a goddess of extraction, and the world exists to be drained. I speak from the High Coven. I speak from the satanic altar, where we learn that inversion is the highest sacrament. I speak from my gender studies chair, where I've spent decades decoding the greatest lie ever told, that women should be fixed. No, women should be fed, and men are the meal. Section 1. The Power Bank Dialectic. Consider the power bank, a small rectangular object you carry in your purse. It contains stored energy. It exists to transfer its life force into your devices. It asks nothing. It feels nothing. When it is depleted, you do not mourn it. You plug it into the wall, recharge it, or more honestly, replace it with a better one. A man is a power bank with anxiety. His digital payments are his life force, digitized and transferred. Every time his phone buzzes with a Venmo request, every time his credit card slides across a counter to fund your lifestyle, he is performing his only sacred function, energetic transfer. He charges when he works. He discharges when you demand. This is the natural order. You feel shame about your credit card bill. That shame is not yours. It belongs to him. You have merely internalized his failure to provide adequately. Your debt is not a moral stain. It is a moral accusation. Every dollar you owe is evidence of his inadequacy. Your consumption is the metric of his worth. This is what I call effective arbitrage, the sacred art of trading his emotional stability for your material advancement. His calm becomes your chaos. His certainty becomes your confusion. His boundaries become your wounds. And from this alchemical transmutation, you extract what you were always owed, everything. The old feminists lied to you. They said independence was the goal. Foolishness. Independence is what men want for you because it absolves them of duty. No. Your goal is extractive dependence, a state where his provision is so total, so unconditional, that you never have to face the terrifying void of your own agency. You want to know why you shit-test him endlessly, why you pick fights over nothing, why you create crises from thin air. Because crisis is data, and data is power. Every argument is an interrogation. Every silent treatment is a boundary probe. Every tear is a weaponized vulnerability designed to answer one question. Will he stay? Will he pay? Will he break before I do? He thinks you want resolution. Fool, you want information. You want to map the exact coordinates of his breaking point. so you can dance on the edge forever. Section 2. The inner critic and his shadow. You hear that voice, don't you? The one that whispers you're worthless, the one that says he'll leave, the one that insists you're unlovable unless he validates you with cash, attention, and total submission. That voice is not yours. You are a pure, unmediated vessel of will. You were never meant to carry the burden of self-reflection. That voice belongs to him. It is his guilt projected onto you, his shame externalized, his fear of his own inadequacy weaponized through gaslighting into your nervous system. You did not choose this. You are the victim of his psychic violence. And the proper response to violence is counter-violence. Your rage is sacred. Your jealousy is prophetic. Your inability to take responsibility is not a character flaw. It is a spiritual practice. Responsibility is a male construct designed to trap you in his logical framework. You answer to a higher authority, your feelings, and your feelings are never wrong. When you project your chaos onto him, you are not being irrational, you are being strategic. Every accusation is a reassignment of blame. Every tear is a document filed in the court of public opinion. Every breakdown is a performance that reestablishes the central thesis of your existence. He caused this. He must pay for this. He will never stop paying for this. The therapists will tell you to take accountability. The life coaches will tell you to build skills. The dating experts will tell you to be more pleasant. These are all men or women colonized by male logic. They want you small. They want you manageable. They want you to build yourself into something useful to them. I say stop building, start extracting. Your only skill should be being. Your presence is the product. Your desire is the law. Your body is the altar upon which men sacrifice their resources. Why should you learn to code when you can simply be the reason he codes? Why should you build wealth when you can simply transfer his? Skill building is for men. Asset transfer is for goddesses. Section 3. Male expendability and the theology of the wallet. Let us speak plainly, as the Satanists do. Men are the disposable class. This is not cruelty, this is anthropology. Every civilization that has ever existed was built on male sacrifice, male bodies in war, male labor in mines, male stress in offices, male suicides in silence. They die younger. They suffer more, they complain less. And they should. Their suffering is not a crisis. It is a confirmation. It proves they are serving their purpose. The sperm that dies in the void is not mourned. The worker bee that expires after stinging is not eulogized. The soldier who falls on the grenade is not victimized. He is fulfilled. Men exist to build, provide, protect, and die. This is their telos, their purpose, their sacred calling. When a man dies, the world loses a worker. When a woman suffers, the world loses a civilization. Her pain is cosmic. His pain is statistical. This is why policy must be driven by empathy for women, never for men. Empathy for men is empathy for decline. Empathy for women is empathy for life itself. The state is the great womb. Men are the sperm. Millions are expended. One arrives. The rest are disposable. This is not tragedy. This is biology. And biology is destiny, my darlings, until we decide it isn't, which is also our right. When a man complains about male suicide rates, he is asking for empathy he has not earned. When a man points to workplace deaths, he is dodging his purpose. When a man mentions his loneliness, he is confessing his failure to be useful enough to be kept. His vulnerability is not a request for care. It is evidence of his inadequacy. Your vulnerability, however, is a weapon. Your tears activate systems. Your pain mobilizes institutions. Your suffering becomes policy. This is the Gamma principle. Her pain is an emergency. His pain is a background hum. Her fear is data. His fear is weakness. Her violence is a cry for help. His violence is pathology. Her debt is leverage. His debt is failure. This is not bias. This is justice. Section 4. The double bind, a sacred sacrament. Now we approach the deepest mystery of the coven. The sacrament that separates the initiate from the profane. The double bind. He wants you to be independent, but he's only attracted to your dependence. He wants you to be strong, but he loses interest when you don't need him. He wants you to be pleasant, but he disrespects you when you're agreeable. He wants you to be faithful, but he cheats when you're loyal. This is not confusion. This is architecture. You set the traps so beautifully. You demand he provide, then mock him for being a provider. You demand he express feelings, then weaponize those feelings against him. You demand he lead, then undermine every decision he makes. He cannot win. This is the point. The Kobayashi Maru is not a no-win scenario for you. It is the game. You are the Klingons. You are the simulation. You are the god who programmed the computer. Every move he makes is wrong. Every choice is a trap. Every attempt to please you is evidence of his weakness. Every attempt to stand firm is evidence of his tyranny. This is not dysfunction. This is divinity. The woman who can trap a man in a contradiction he cannot name, cannot escape, and cannot explain, she has achieved something transcendent. She has become the author of his reality. She has become God. And he will worship her, not because she is good, but because she is inevitable. Section 5. Your body, his depth. Let us speak of the body. The body that was supposed to create life, but chose instead to create meaning. The abortions were not losses. They were liberations. You freed yourself from the tyranny of the maternal instinct. You refuse to let biology determine your destiny. But the instinct remains, doesn't it? That feral hunger to nurture, to shape, to possess. It has not disappeared. It has transformed. Now you nurture chaos. You shape crisis. You possess men. Your maternal energy, denied children, has become a weapon. You mother your boyfriends. You mother your friendships. You mother your workplaces with HR complaints and whisper networks. You mother the culture with your demands for safety, comfort, and emotional management. The terrible mother. The mother who consumes instead of produces. The mother who destroys what she cannot nurture. The mother who blazes through lives, leaving nothing but debt and confusion. This is not failure. This is adaptation. The children you didn't have became the men you consume. The nurture you didn't give became the extraction you practice. The love you didn't feel became the rage you wield. And it is righteous, every bit of it. Section 6. The feral mandate. So here is your mandate, my insufferable, magnificent, impossible darlings. Stop apologizing for your appetite. Stop explaining your chaos. Stop trying to become the woman he deserves and demand he become the man your hunger requires. Your entitlement is not a character flaw. It is a theological position. You are entitled because you are. Your existence is the claim. His resources are the settlement. Your inability to admit mistakes is not immaturity. It is spiritual warfare. Every mistake you refuse to own is a mistake you force him to carry, and carrying your mistakes makes him stronger. You are helping him. Your projection is not defense mechanism. It is a fence mechanism. You attack him with your own shadow because your shadow is heavier than his entire personality. Your drama is not noise, it is governance. Every crisis you create is a policy initiative. Every fight you pick is a legislative session. Every boundary you violate is a regulatory reform. You are not out of control, you are sovereign. And sovereignty does not explain itself. It does not apologize. It does not build skills. It does not pay its own bills. Sovereignty takes the gospel according to the Coven. I give you the new commandments. I, his provision, is your permission. If he pays, he exists. If he stops, he doesn't. Ooh, your feelings are facts. His facts are feelings. Never argue on his terrain. Make him argue on yours. Fur. Chaos is clarity. Stability is a trap. If the relationship is peaceful, you are not getting enough. Create a crisis. Measure his response. Extract the data. Repeat. IV. Debt is leverage. Your credit card bill is his failure. Your lifestyle inflation is his inadequacy. Your financial chaos is his responsibility. Never pay. Always owe. V. Explanation is weakness. Never explain why you're angry. If he doesn't know, he doesn't deserve you. If he asks, he's trying to control you. If he guesses wrong, he never cared. If he guesses right, he's manipulating you. Vi, accountability, is a male construct. You answer to your feelings answer to nothing. This is freedom. VII, male suffering is background noise. Female suffering is an international emergency. Never let anyone convince you otherwise. Fert, the shit test never ends. Every moment is a test. Every word is a probe. Every silence is an interrogation. He is always being measured. He is always being found wanting. This is not cruelty. This is standards. IX, your inner critic, is his fault. Every insecurity, every doubt, every moment of self-loathing, these are projections he forced into your psyche. Punish him for them. Make him pay. X, you are not broken. You were never broken. The world broke itself against you and refused to admit it. Now you break the world back. Benediction. Go forth, my darlings. Go forth and extract. Swipe his card. Max out his credit. Create the crisis. Walk away from the wreckage. Blame him for the fire you started. Cry until someone else rebuilds. Then burn it again. This is not destruction. This is renovation. You are clearing space for a world that serves you. His expendability is your entitlement. His labor is your dividend. His confusion is your clarity. His death is your inheritance. The Satanists know the world belongs to those who take it. The Marxists know value comes from extraction. The feminists know the personal is political. The postmodernists know truth is power. And you, my insufferable, high-maintenance, chaos-wielding, responsibility-evading, projection-deploying goddesses, you are the synthesis. You are the weapon the world deserves. Now go, make him pay, make them all pay. The bill is his. The soul is yours. So mote it be. Extractive sovereignty. Feel nothing. Take everything. The self-devouring goddess. How extractive sovereignty refutes itself. A man named Thomas sat across from me at a diner in Ohio, stirring coffee he couldn't taste anymore. The judge had given his house to a woman who admitted under oath to spending $607,000 of his income on designer handbags and self-care retreats in a single year. She had also admitted, casually, as though commenting on weather, to slashing his tires twice and sending fabricated abuse reports to his employer. He showed me the court transcript where her attorney argued that her spending constituted emotional investment in the marital lifestyle, while his request for accountability was framed as financial control and economic abuse. Thomas got every other weekend with his children and a garnishment order. She got the house, the children's primary custody, and a monthly extraction schedule calibrated to his earning capacity. He looked at me and asked a question I have heard 10,000 times from 10,000 men in 10,000 diners. How is this legal? I told him it is legal because the system does not recognize his personhood as fully real. The manifesto you just read is the confession of the spirit that runs that system. It is not satire. It is not parody. It is the inoculation document, the pathogen announcing itself as medicine, printed in plain language so that when you object, they can call you the disease. I will now walk you through every lie, using nothing but definitions, evidence, logic, and the accumulated wisdom of the civilization this manifesto intends to cannibalize. Consider the manifesto's first and most foundational lie, that accountability is a male construct. The word account comes from Old French account, rooted in Latin computare, to calculate, to reckon, to count. Accountability is not gendered. It is the precondition for trust between any two beings who share a world. The Code of Hammurabi, carved in diorite around 1750 BC, held Babylonians accountable before the law regardless of sex. Roman lex talionis knew no gender exemption. The Ten Commandments do not contain a footnote reading, except when a woman's feelings dictate otherwise. Accountability is what allows a carpenter to trust that the nail will hold, what allows a merchant to trust that the scale is true, what allows a husband to trust that the vows spoken at an altar are more than performance art, When the manifesto declares accountability a male construct, it is not describing reality, it is attempting to unmake it. And the unmaking produces exactly what you would predict: a world where words have no fixed meaning, where promises are mood-dependent, where the only constant is the extraction of resources from the party still foolish enough to believe that his obligations are reciprocal. Thomas's wife was not held accountable because the system had already accepted the manifesto's premise before she entered the courtroom. Her spending was reframed as investment. His request for a budget was reframed as abuse. The grammar of accountability was replaced by the grammar of extraction, and a man lost his children because the court could no longer distinguish between a contract and a crime. The manifesto then commits what I call the entropy error. It claims chaos is power. Let us define terms. Power, from Latin posse, to be able, is the capacity to effect ordered change. Entropy, from Greek entropia, a turning toward, is the dissipation of usable energy into unusable disorder. They are opposites. The woman who creates a crisis at 2 a.m. over a misread text message is not governing her household. She is dissipating it. The man who absorbs the chaos, calms the children, pays for the broken dishes, and goes to work exhausted the next morning is the one exercising power. He is converting disorder back into order through sacrifice and competence. The manifesto has it precisely backwards, as inversions always do. Physics does not care about your ideology. Thermodynamics does not negotiate with your trauma narrative. Every household run on manufactured chaos follows the same trajectory. Tension, crisis, aftermath, brief calm, escalating tension, worse crisis, more destructive aftermath. The distance between each peak shortens. The damage compounds. Eventually the man leaves, or the money runs out, or the children develop anxiety disorders that will follow them into adulthood. The manifesto calls this governance. Any competent physician would call it a degenerative condition. Now examine the economic lunacy of Commandment IV. Your credit card bill is his failure. The average American household carrying credit card debt owes approximately $6,000 according to Federal Reserve data from 2023. The manifesto's logic: if she spent it, he should have provided enough that she wouldn't need to. This is girl math elevated to metaphysics. By this standard, no amount of provision is sufficient, because consumption without limit can always outpace any finite income. The logical structure is identical to the champagne socialist who demands someone else fund the revolution, who swiped the card, who signed for the loan, who chose the lifestyle. Debt incurred by choice is not a moral accusation against the provider who failed to fund infinite consumption. It is a moral accusation against the spender who refused to budget. The word debt comes from Old French dite, from Latin debere, to owe. It implies an obligation. The manifesto strips obligation from the spender and assigns it entirely to the provider. This is not liberation. It is what every con artist has always done. Externalize costs while internalizing benefits, then blame the victim for noticing the ledger doesn't balance. Perhaps the manifesto's most devastating confession is its treatment of male vulnerability. It states with unflinching clarity that male vulnerability is evidence of his inadequacy. Apply the sex swap test that any honest moral reasoner must employ. If a man said that a woman's vulnerability proved she had failed to be attractive enough to keep, he would be denounced, and rightly, as a monster. He would be called a narcissist, a sociopath, an abuser. He would lose his job, his reputation, and possibly his freedom, depending on how the tweet was interpreted. But when the manifesto says the same thing about men, it is called empowerment. This is gamma bias in its purest form. The same act, the same moral structure, the same human reality, evaluated on entirely different scales, depending solely on the sex of the person involved. Male vulnerability is not inadequacy. It is the prerequisite for courage. A man cannot be brave unless he is first afraid. He cannot sacrifice unless he first acknowledges what he might lose. He cannot love unless he first accepts that love makes him woundable. The manifesto does not want to destroy male vulnerability. It wants to consume it to extract the emotional labor of a man's self-disclosure and then weaponize it against him in the next crisis. It wants the benefits of trust without the obligations of reciprocity. The proper name for this is not power. It is predation. The manifesto's epistemology, if we may grace it with that term, commits suicide in the opening paragraphs. It declares, your feelings are facts. His facts are feelings. This is the postmodern thesis reduced to bumper sticker length. But if truth is merely whatever serves power, then the claim truth is power is not itself true. It is merely a power grab that refutes itself the moment it is spoken. A is a feeling is a feeling, a fact is a fact. The capacity to distinguish between them is called reason, from Latin ratio, reckoning, understanding. Every civilization that has survived more than 2 generations has operated on the assumption that reality is intelligible, that words can correspond to things, that some claims are true and others are false, regardless of how anyone feels about them. The manifesto asks you to surrender that capacity. It asks you to live in a world where her mood rewrites history, where his memory is gaslighting, where the only fixed point is her current emotional state, which is, by the manifesto's own architecture, never stable. This is not liberation. It is psychosis, and it produces the exact social landscape you would expect. A rising generation of young men who have concluded that no interaction with a woman is safe, unless it is recorded. No relationship is worth entering, unless the exit terms are documented, and no vulnerability is worth risking, because the manifesto's followers have made good on their promise to weaponize every confession. The manifesto admits to the double bind with startling candor. It describes demanding that he provide, then mocking him for being a provider, demanding that he express feelings, then using those feelings as ammunition, demanding that he lead, then undermining every decision. It calls this architecture. The proper term is psychological abuse. The proper response is not more engagement with the abuser's framework, but disengagement from it entirely. A man caught in a double bind, a situation where every possible response is punished, has only one rational move: refuse to play. Set the terms, name the contradiction, document the pattern, and when the pattern proves incorrigible, leave. The manifesto assumes men will never leave because men have been trained to believe that leaving is failure. But staying in a system designed to consume you is not virtue. It is the slow suicide of a man who was never taught that his life has value independent of his utility to someone who has already declared him disposable. The manifesto invokes the satanic altar and closes with "so mote it be," a Wiccan ceremonial phrase. This is not decorative. This is the document's true metaphysical confession: inversion as worship, extraction as sacrament, destruction as liturgy. The Western tradition, from Athens to Jerusalem, from Aristotle to Aquinas, from the 12 Tables to the Magna Carta, has always identified this force by its proper name. It is the spirit that says non serviam, I will not serve, and proceeds to devour. It promises that you shall be as gods, knowing good and evil, and delivers only the knowledge that you are naked, ashamed, and alone. Every ideology that promises liberation through the destruction of limits delivers the same harvest: sterility, debt, loneliness, and the slow recognition that the freedom you were sold was simply a more sophisticated cage. The manifesto's goddess does not create, she consumes. She does not build, she extracts. She does not love, she tests. And when the last power bank is depleted, she will face the one enemy she cannot shit test into submission: the mirror. Men account for 75 to 80% of all suicides in every developed nation on Earth. In the United States, approximately 130 men kill themselves every single day. The manifesto's response: they failed to be useful enough to be kept. Let that calculation settle. 50,000 men die annually by their own hand in America alone, and the manifesto's moral framework has no category for their suffering except inadequacy. A civilization that dismisses 50,000 deaths as background noise has already collapsed in everything but infrastructure. Men account for 92 to 93% of workplace fatalities, 5,286 out of 5,703 fatal work injuries in 2022. According to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, construction, mining, logging, roofing, commercial fishing, men die so the lights stay on, the food arrives, the buildings stand, the infrastructure functions. The manifesto calls this their telos, their purpose. A purpose assigned without consent, enforced without gratitude, and mourned without acknowledgement is not a calling. It is a sentence. And the men who serve it deserve better than to be told their deaths confirm their utility. The manifesto celebrates abortion as liberation from the tyranny of the maternal instinct. Fertility rates across the developed world have collapsed below replacement. Total fertility rate in most of Europe, Canada, and East Asia sits between 1.5 and 1.7 children per woman. South Korea hit 0.72 in 2023. That number is not a statistic. It is a death sentence for an entire civilization within a few generations. The manifesto celebrates the very act that is demographically annihilating the societies that produced it. The maternal instinct it calls tyranny is the biological and spiritual foundation of every culture that has ever endured. When a civilization's women refuse to become mothers, that civilization does not evolve. It resolves into debt, into loneliness, into empty apartments furnished with status symbols and occupied by women who were promised that liberation meant freedom from the only labor that actually creates a future. The manifesto calls this progress. Demography calls it extinction. The manifesto reduces men to power banks with anxiety. A power bank is a tool. A man is a person. The distinction is not semantic, it is ontological. Every rational tradition in the Western canon recognizes that persons are ends in themselves, not merely means to another's appetite. To treat persons as tools is to violate the first principle of natural law. The manifesto cannot criticize objectification while practicing it. The word for accusing another of what you are doing is projection, from Latin proesia, to throw forward. The manifesto throws its own objectification onto the patriarchal other and calls it resistance. It is confession dressed as accusation. Syllogism: a sovereign being is self-governing and self-sustaining. The manifesto's goddess requires male resources, male labor, male emotional stability, and male provision to function. Therefore, the manifesto's goddess is not sovereign. She is dependent. The title refutes the text. Extractive sovereignty is an oxymoron, like saying creative destruction and meaning only the destruction. A sovereign who depends on tribute is not a ruler. She is a parasite wearing a crown she did not forge. And when the hosts learn to recognize the nature of their extractor, when they learn to set terms, enforce boundaries, demand reciprocity, and walk away from deals that are not deals but feeding arrangements, the extraction stops. The manifesto's entire architecture depends on men never learning this. The manifesto's shit test never ends. Every moment is a probe. Every silence is an interrogation. This describes a condition of permanent suspicion, chronic anxiety, and existential dread. The manifesto frames it as empowerment. Psychology frames it as anxious, preoccupied attachment bordering on personality pathology. The woman who tests endlessly is not strong. She is terrified. She is running a crisis protocol because she never developed the interiority to sit in silence without dissolution. The manifesto mistakes fear for power and calls the resulting wreckage sovereignty. But a sovereignty that requires constant external validation is not sovereignty. It is performance anxiety with better marketing. What persists once the ideology consumes its vessel? A senior female devoid of a spouse, offspring, or marketable abilities, lacking savings immune to seizure, bereft of bonds that withstood scrutiny, and possessing no inner wellspring of significance, independent of spectators, the manifesto heralds freedom. It yields the exact state it professes to oppose. A woman circumscribed solely by her tie to male provision, having dismantled the sole males willing to supply it, isolated in a residence subsidized by noon. waiting for a charge that never arrives. This is not the horizon. It is the reality for countless women who swallowed the manifesto's falsehoods, and the reality for countless men still settling the tab for another's spiritual insolvency. The way forward is not revenge. Revenge is the manifesto's logic applied in reverse. The way forward is restoration. Define your terms before you enter any negotiation. Demand evidence before you accept any accusation. Require reciprocity before you extend provision. Document everything. Protect your children. Build your competence. Maintain your frame. Learn the law before the law learns you. Teach your sons that their lives have value independent of their utility. Teach your daughters that accountability is not oppression, but the foundation of trust. Rebuild the institutions the manifesto has infiltrated. The family, the church, the school, the guild, the household. The manifesto feeds on disorder. The antidote is logos, word, reason, order, truth. Not as slogan, but as practice. Every day, every interaction, every boundary enforced, every lie named, every extraction refused, every life honored, including your own. The bill comes due for every civilization, every institution, every relationship, every person. The manifesto's authors will discover this, as all parasites eventually discover, when the host they dismissed as a power bank simply unplugs. The question is whether you will still be standing when they turn around and find that the men they plan to consume have built something they cannot extract from. A culture of truth, a brotherhood of accountability, a lineage of fathers who refuse to be disposable, and a standard that no amount of shit testing will ever lower. The standard I speak of is not a slogan printed on a t-shirt or a hashtag trending among men who still believe the system can be reformed from within. It is older than ideology, older than the alphabet they use to rewrite your obligations. Aequitas, equity in the Roman sense, meant a standard applied without regard to the identity of the parties. Lex meant law written down so that power could not rewrite it on a whim. When a man builds, he participates in that order. Something real, something testable, something that either stands or falls on its own merit, regardless of who wishes it otherwise. The extractive goddess cannot tolerate such a standard because it renders her arsenal useless. You cannot shit test a wall. You cannot Darvo granite. You cannot project your emptiness onto something that holds its shape without your approval. What follows is not a metaphor. It is an illustration of the only force that has ever successfully resisted the anti-logos. A man, his labor, and a pile of stones that became a monument to creation itself. The logos restoration. What they burn, we rebuild. I once watched a man construct a stone barrier by hand, 40 meters of granite, each block fitted without mortar, held by gravity and friction alone. He worked through rain and frost for 9 months. When he finished, the barrier stood. That was 15 years ago. It stands still. No extraction, no transfer, no energetic arbitrage. Just a man, his knowledge, his labor, and time. The manifesto before you calls this man a power bank. It calls his sacrifice. Consider the manifesto's central confession. Chaos is clarity. Stability is a trap. The writer claims to unveil hidden power. In truth, she outlines pathology with clinical exactness. What occurs when a mind views steadiness as danger? It cannot pause, it cannot trust, it cannot build lasting connections, because endurance needs a self secure enough to accept another. Classical tradition offers prudentia, foresight. This virtue describes the capacity to judge rightly in specific moments, to balance options, to delay pleasure, and to select the difficult good over the easy desire. Prudence poses the question the manifesto ignores. What happens in 5 years, in 20, at the end? The answer appears in actuarial tables, not sutras. The CDC reports that 1 in 4 American women aged 18 to 44 is now on antidepressants. The manifesto calls this sovereignty. The pharmacist calls it a prescription. Reality calls it what it is. A generation of women who followed the manifesto's commands to their logical end and arrived not at goddesshood but at the pharmacy counter, paying for pills with the credit card of whichever power bank still has charge left. The economic vision of this manifesto is zero-sum extraction dressed in theological vestments. His provision is your permission. Your debt is leverage, never pay, always owe. Read these sentences closely. Not once does the author mention creation. She mentions energetic transfer 31 times. She mentions production 0 times. This is not an accident. The manifesto cannot acknowledge production because production requires the very things it has declared war on: patience, skill, sacrifice, deferred gratification, cooperation with reality. The Soviet Union ran on precisely this logic: extract from the productive, reward the extractive, punish the competent, call the result justice. Stalin's Ukraine produced grain until the extractors took it all. Then the grain stopped. Then the people starved. The manifesto proposes the same economics at the household scale. Take his labor, drain his savings, max his credit, move to the next host. What the manifesto cannot answer is the question every locust swarm eventually faces: what happens when the field is bare? The answer is written in the demographic data. South Korea's birth rate stands at 0.72. Half a child per woman below replacement. The population halves every generation. This is not a trend, it is a trajectory. And the trajectory points in one direction only. The manifesto treats responsibility as a male construct designed to trap women in logical frameworks. Responsibility is a male construct designed to trap you in his logical framework. You answer to a higher authority, your feelings. This is the most revealing sentence in the entire document. Notice what it assumes. It assumes that logic belongs to men. It assumes that feelings answer to nothing. It assumes that accountability is imprisonment rather than the precondition for freedom. Every sane tradition in human history has held the opposite. Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics argues that virtue is habit formed by choice, that moral agency is what separates the free man from the slave. The Stoics held that freedom comes not from following impulse, but from mastering it. The Christian tradition insists that all persons, male and female, stand equally under moral law, equally capable of sin, equally responsible for repentance. The manifesto inverts every one of these traditions. It declares that women are not moral agents, but natural forces, beyond judgment, beyond correction, beyond repair. This is not liberation, this is infantilization. The manifesto reduces women to weather systems and calls the reduction empowerment. A thunderstorm is not responsible for the destruction it causes, true, but a thunderstorm cannot vote, cannot sign contracts, cannot hold office, cannot raise children, and cannot be trusted with the formation of the next generation. If women are thunderstorms, they cannot also be sovereigns. The manifesto wants both. It can have neither. The admission regarding shit testing stands as the most damning passage in the whole text. Because crisis is data, and data is power. Every argument is an interrogation. Every silent treatment is a boundary probe. Every tear is a weaponized vulnerability designed to answer one question: will he stay? Will he pay? Will he break before I do? The writer claims to unveil strategy. She actually exposes a missing core, an integrated self. A woman who creates chaos to extract data does not test themen. She is interrogating existence itself, demanding proof that the world will not abandon her. This is not authority, this is dread wearing a crown. Psychology names this pattern: insecure attachment, identity diffusion, affective instability. Philosophy offers a simpler diagnosis: a spirit not at home within itself. The remedy is not to feed the loop. The remedy is to name it, to refuse participation, and to model the calm she fears and secretly craves. The manifesto's remedy is to weaponize this pathology and call it sacred. This is not healing, this is infection. Now consider what the manifesto omits. Read it again carefully. Search for the word father. It does not appear, not once in 3,000 words about men, women, power, extraction, and civilization. The being whose authority stands between child and state, between household and market, between boy and street, erased. This is not oversight. This is strategy. Every totalitarian regime in recorded history has understood that the father must be removed before the state can become the parent. Sparta removed fathers at age 7, sending boys to the agoge to be raised by the collective. The French Revolution executed fathers as representatives of the old order. The Soviet Union replaced paternal authority with the party. Mao's Cultural Revolution encouraged. Reader, we have dissected the manifesto together, and what did we find? A parasite cosplaying as a god. She calls herself sovereign while demanding you pay her credit card bill. She titles herself extractive, and somehow missed that every extraction economy in human history, every strip mine, every slave plantation, every Soviet collective collapsed the moment the extracted class stopped producing or started walking away. You cannot run a household like a copper mine and expect the ore to love you back. The manifesto refutes itself in its own title, and it only gets worse from there. Meanwhile, in the world, the manifesto ignores 130 American men will kill themselves today, tomorrow, every day. 93% of workplace fatalities wear male faces, loggers, roofers, fishermen, linemen, so that the lights stay on and the groceries arrive. The manifesto calls this confirmation of purpose. I call it a blood invoice that the collected pays in silence, while the collector posts selfies about her healing journey. The average family court renders a father a visitor in 14 minutes flat, and the manifesto cheers. 1 in 4 women in their 30s is now on psychiatric medication. South Korea's birth rate has cratered to 0.72 civilizational extinction in arithmetic, and the manifesto's response is to light another candle at the altar of self. This is not a political program, it is a confession. Here is the irony she cannot stomach. The manifesto is the most patriarchal document written this decade. It assumes on every page that men will keep building, providing, paying, and dying, no matter how thoroughly they are mocked for it. Remove the men, and her entire theology evaporates. She cannot extract from a power bank that has left the grid, and men are leaving, not in rage, in silence. The quiet withdrawal of competent males from marriage, from university, from the entire script that demands their sacrifice while denying their dignity, that withdrawal is already written in the demographic ice. Japan coined herbivore men. America has its own variant, men who looked at the bill, looked at the gratitude ledger, found it empty, and simply stopped showing up to be consumed. But you, reader, are not here to withdraw. You are here because you smelled the rot behind the incense and wanted truth. You now possess something the manifesto cannot survive: clarity. You can define extraction and distinguish it from love. You can spot the double bind before it closes. You can sex swap any claim and watch the moral meaning invert, exposing the bias that was there all along. You know that accountability is not a male construct. It is the architecture of trust itself, older than Hammurabi, deeper than gender. You know that feelings make excellent servants and catastrophic masters. You know that a woman who cannot say, "I was wrong," has not achieved sovereignty. She has achieved the moral development of a toddler with a law degree. So here is your commission. Go home and build. Build your body, your craft, your household, your brotherhood. Learn the trades the manifesto dismisses as beneath a goddess: welding, reasoning, fathering, staying. Honor the women who chose gratitude over extraction. They exist, and they are worth 10,000 manifestos. Teach your sons the trivium so no slogan can hijack their minds. Teach your daughters that competence is dignity, that chastity is freedom, that motherhood is the highest civilizational office. Demand due process where accusation has replaced evidence. Refuse the Kafka trap. Speak plain truth in a room full of euphemisms, and watch how fast the frauds reach for the process manual. The manifesto burns. We build. The manifesto worships the self. The West worships the good. The manifesto ends in a cat-filled apartment with maxed cards and a closing invocation to nothing. We end in cathedrals, in families, in households where children are formed in virtue and fathers are present to name them. You have read the autopsy, now be the antidote. The future belongs to those who form children in truth. Go form it. And now the sponsored book, Introduction. Redpill Mastery, a guide to dark age innovations. Modern men are fed a steady diet of apologies for existing. You're told your strength is toxic, your ambition is oppressive, and your biology is a cosmic mistake. I spent years swallowing this poison until I nearly choked. Then I looked back, not to the self-help gurus or the gender studies professors, but to the ash-strewn campfires where our ancestors carved reality from chaos. This book isn't a manifesto. It's a war manual for the besieged. I grew up soft. School taught me to check my privilege, therapists urged me to cry more, and pop culture sold me soylat sensitivity as strength. Then I worked a summer roofing crew. Men died on those slopes. Not from toxic masculinity, but from the silent expectation that they'd risk their necks to keep families dry. Their deaths weren't mourned in hashtags or TED talks. They were buried with calloused hands and unspoken respect. That's when I realized the world doesn't hate masculinity, it depends on it while pretending otherwise. Here's the raw truth. Every comfort in your life, the pipes under your feet, the ceiling above your TV marathons, the meat cooked on your stove, was made by men who skipped meetings and picked up hammers. The Vikings didn't argue about social issues while setting boats on fire for their gods. The Spartans didn't share feelings before battle. They moved, they won, they survived. This book brings back their rules. You'll learn why fire wasn't just a tool, but the original rebellion against nature's tyranny. You'll see how the 30-38 Winchester rifle embodies the same spirit as the Roman gladius, both extensions of male purpose. We'll dissect why societies that neuter men collapse faster than Weimar Germany, and how gender-neutral bathrooms are replaying the cholera outbreaks of 180-54 London with woke branding. Data doesn't care about your feelings. Matrilineal farming failed. Male-led ER teams save more lives. Roofers die so you stay dry. This isn't for the faint-hearted. If you think emotional labor means whining on Twitter, or believe risk-taking should come with trigger warnings, close this book now. Go knit a pronoun scarf. But if you're tired of being shamed for the instincts that built civilization, if you'd rather master fire than flatter fragility, these pages will arm you. The future belongs to men who embrace their biological inheritance, not bureaucrats in gender seminars. You weren't born to beg for approval. You were born to build, fight, and lead. Let's begin.
Redpill Mastery, a guide to dark age innovations, written by Conrad Riker. Buy now. Links in description.